Well, hello everybody and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 395 of the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. This is Linux in the Ham Shack, and we are doing our short topics episode for tonight. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and introduce the crew. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD.
So we're all here again. Cheryl has come back from her mission of deliciousness. And, you all heard about that in the last episode. So hopefully everybody maybe even tried that out. And with that, we should probably get moving. But again, short topics episode for tonight. But we have a special guest with us tonight. And that's going to be our lead topic for the evening because we have the QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo coming up. And that's going to be in March. And here to talk about it is Eric Guth, ForZed1UG, creator of the event and newly minted patron. And he's going to give us all the feedback on it. So let's go ahead and bring him in here and learn about the expo.
We did it last summer in August, was the very first one. And that was a online virtual convention. And what I wanted to do at the time that we were planning it is I wanted to create something that actually looked like a convention. So it had an outside parking lot, virtual. It had a big lobby. It had an exhibit floor with booths and vendors. And it had a great auditorium full of ham radio presentations. And so we're doing it again in March, the second week of March, second weekend. So March, beginning March 12th through March 14th. So it runs 48 hours on Pacific time. And we're doing the same thing, except what we're doing differently this time is that last August, when I'm sitting there looking at the dashboard of the convention, so I have this dashboard that tells me how many people are on the convention floor and where they're going. We had 14,000 people on the platform that weekend. Thousands of people going to exhibit booths, thousands of people going to sessions. But the problem is for me is I didn't feel them there. I saw the numbers on the dashboard, but I didn't feel them. So after the last expo was over, I started looking for platforms that would allow people to not only see or feel the number of people that are on the platform for the weekend, but also to be able to interact with them, either randomly or in small groups like you would at a regular convention. So we're using, in addition to the platform that we used last time, which gave us that look and feel and eye candy of being at a convention, with a parking lot and the lobby and the exhibit booths, we're using a platform called AirMeet. And AirMeet allows us to have a huge lobby or lounge outside of the auditorium with 200 tables. And those tables, if you go and you take a chair, then you're in a video conference with the people sitting around the table. And we can put, subjects on the table, like DX or software-defined radio or something like that, if people want to go there. And or they can just find their friends in the directory, send them a message and say, hey, go to table 57 and we'll talk. Or they can just sit randomly at a table and they can talk to whoever's there. So the idea was to kind of create this, hallway conversation with people that show up. And on the AirMeet platform, you actually see all of the icons of all the people, and those icons could be their face pictures too. So you'll see actually all of these people on the platform, and you'll be able to message them or find them and then talk to them. And then every booth also has a lounge with 6 tables in it, so that you can actually go into the booth lounge and talk to the people who are at the booth. So Flex Radio is our platinum sponsor. And you can go into Flex Radio's lounge and you can sit and talk with Gerald or Steve or Michael or one of the people there. So it's really kind of cool. So that's what we're doing differently. And the way I look at it is every time we do this, we try to iterate one more time to make it better.
I did check out that AirMeet thing, and it looked pretty cool. Of course, it was at a time of day when no one was in there, and it's in a sort of demo stage right now, so I didn't get to experience the video conferencing. But that looks like a nice addition for sure. And I also like the fact that you can have interaction inside the booth because there really wasn't a lot of interaction the last time. I mean, we had interaction through the text chat, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah, well, it wasn't obvious in the last one that all those booths actually had video chat. But that video chat had to be initiated from the booth side. So what we're doing instead is that we put all of the, when you go into a booth, you're actually in the AirMeet booth. So there's actually like 2 sets of booths, but we're working very hard to kind of link them all together. We're building a universal passport, so every visitor, every attendee will get a unique URL, and that will actually identify them on all of the platforms so they can move around without having to re-enter information. So we're hoping to kind of pull that whole thing together between the 2 platforms so that people can actually, look at the Flex radio booth and then go into Flex's lounge and actually, talk to the people there, or any of the other Linux in the Ham Shack booth. The same thing. You guys will have 6 tables, and you can sit at the tables, and you can, hold court with your fans.
Oh, let's hope there are some.
I think there's at least one.
So, well, okay, cool. We can hold court.
I'll be there.
I don't know. Seems like you might be a little busy while this whole thing is going on.
Well, I was busy last time dealing with all of the issues of the game that we put on the platform. I was very naive when I put this game on the last Expo, and that game cost me the entire Expo and the entire month of August to resolve all the issues around the prize game. This time, there's no game on the platform itself. Each of the exhibitors are responsible for the prizes in their booths and the prizes that they give away.
Well, that's good. That's a
so I'll have
little
more
bit
time.
Yeah, exactly. You've decided to delegate some of that responsibility to free up some of your own time, which is always smart. One of the other things that's different about the Expo this year is not going to be free, right? There's a reason for that.
Well, that's a good question. We're charging $10 per ticket this time. One of the reasons is that we had 27,000 people sign up for the last Expo, and only 16,000 came during the weekend and the 30-day on-demand period. So what we wanted to do is we kind of wanted to narrow that gap. We kind of did a survey. We actually surveyed that entire group of people that registered and also the people that came. So we got about 6,000 surveys back in September. And one of those questions was to understand what the value was to people coming. So by charging $10, we hope to narrow that gap between registrations and people that come. That's the first thing. The second thing is the platforms that we're using are very expensive. We've made over $100,000 commitment for these 2 platforms that we're using for the next year. So unfortunately, we have to pay for them. And in order to bring an expo of this size, even virtually, costs as much as actually renting a convention center for a weekend. So this is the reason.
And that makes perfect sense. It's always seemed to me that if you put a nominal ticket fee and nominal entry fee to something, you encourage that person to actually participate rather than say, oh, it's a free ticket, and then they just go do something else for that day.
Well, it's not. Look, the way that we're looking at it is that charge is about, I think if you got a Starbucks venti whatever and a scone, you'd probably pay close to $10 for that. I think that it helps people make a choice. For $10, maybe they'll put it on their calendar and they'll come. I actually had somebody ask me about, why not make kids free? But nowadays, I think kids nowadays, they have $10, and maybe the lesson for kids is they need to kind of be discerning as to, if the expo is important, maybe that $10, should go to the expo, or that $10 should go to something else. But it's a decision that they have to make.
Well, I personally think that's acceptable and reasonable, and they shouldn't be buying Starbucks and scones anyway. They probably get a lot more out of the expo, I would think. So, do you want to tell us, how many booths do you think there are going to be this time? Has it expanded since the last one?
Well, I think we're going to be about at the same number of booths. The attendees will have to decide in terms of the number of who's there and who's not there. One of the things that we've heard from a lot of companies that we've called is that they don't think they need to come because they've had an amazing year selling ham radio gear to hams that are locked up at home due to the pandemic. So while we might say that this is really about relationship building. We'll see. We'll see who wants to build relationships and who wants to, continue with the way things are. So we'll see. Flex Radio is amazing. Elecraft is amazing. RFinder is amazing. They're all coming back. We have some that were smaller company, in smaller booths last time who've taken sponsorships. So we'll see. Well, as I say, we're iterating from Expo to Expo, and we also think that as the pandemic comes under control, then we'll also see how that shakes out. We believe that virtual events are here forever. We know from our surveys that 60% of the people that came to our expo last time are people who never go to large shows around like Dayton or Hamcation. We know that 40% of the people that we surveyed never go to even local hamfests. So there is a market for virtual, and I think that now that we've kind of been under virtual now for the last year in all kinds of ways, that I'm attending a lot more events now online, and even paying $200, $300 for a ticket, because it's a lot cheaper than actually getting on an airplane and going to that event. And I like the opportunity to get new information and also to network with people I haven't met before.
It's also considerably more convenient to do all of this from your own home than to have to go to wherever the thing is. So. Oh,
absolutely. One of the things I do more now and I think it's because working from home, is that I'm using tools like Zoom or Jitsi or open source tools I prefer. I'm using those more for meetings now than I use the phone. So. And I prefer to have the video conference because I can see the person I'm talking to. If I drive to Tel Aviv for a meeting, that's a whole day out, going down there, coming back, and trying to find parking, all that stuff. So I'm finding it a lot more efficient using the video conferencing technology. So I think that it's going to be here, even after we're over with the pandemic. I also think that the pandemic has caused people to start thinking a little bit differently in terms of the value of their time. If you spend 2 hours in each direction driving to work 5 days a week, maybe after being home, maybe not, but maybe after being home with your family for a year, that you're kind of thinking maybe you don't want to spend as much time in the car.
Yeah, fair enough. So let's talk a little bit about the auditorium aspect of this. You're going to have, I assume, some pre-recorded sessions like you did last time, but there's supposed to be a facility for doing like live demos and live interactive things this time?
Right. So one of the things I was looking for, so one of the problems we had with the workflow last time is that we did all of our sessions semi-live. Semi-live means that we asked our presenters to record their sessions in advance. And there was a couple of reasons for that. The biggest reason for that is that we don't know when a presenter makes his presentation whether he's on a good internet connection, whether all his teenagers that are home that afternoon have decided to watch movies or YouTubes at the same time he's trying to upload a presentation or do a live presentation. So what we've done is we've asked all of our presenters to record their presentations. We kind of gave them some ideas in terms of how they should speak, how long they should speak. And then I spent the September when I found AirMeet, I was looking for a platform where I could run those semi-live presentations and then immediately bring the presenter on live to do Q&A without moving people to another Zoom room or something like this. So this AirMeet platform that we're using, the platform is called AirMeet Summit. It's their largest platform. And what it has is it has 10 theaters. So we can run up to 10 simultaneous presentations every hour. And at the same time, those presenters can go on live and do Q&A without moving the audience. The other thing we learned last time was that people would come into the presentation. Even if they came in a minute or too late, they missed the first minute or so of the presentation. So it's kind of like people going to the movies. You see people, they come into a movie, they got their popcorn, they're sitting down, but it takes them a couple of minutes to kind of get it together before they're actually paying attention. So what we've done is we actually will have a slide with a countdown, 3-minute countdown, before the presentation, so people know, one, they're in the right place, and two, they have a minute or two to kind of get oriented before the presentation starts, so we won't get emails from people saying, hey, I missed the first 3 minutes of the presentation. So we're doing that differently. We have 71 presenters at this point. We've got some great tracks. Flex Radio has a bunch of their tracks, which will be very interesting. There's a whole track, maybe there's 9 presentation on satellite radio. So AMSAT satellites, ways to operate on satellites, things like this. We have every subject in ham radio, we think, going during the Expo weekend, and we have three or four, I think 4 total build-a-thons where we're actually building kits online in real time. So we're trying that to see whether the virtual platform works for that as well.
All right. This all sounds really good to me. I'm looking forward to the second one. I enjoyed the first one more than I thought I would, and this one sounds like it's going to be even better because of the new things that have been added and the new methods of interaction. Bill, have I missed something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, you guys touched on all the points that I was going to make. One was the game that I think was a bit of a distraction, not just for you, Eric, but as a person in a booth, having these people just kind of jump in the chat room, say hi, and bump out and stuff like that. It wasn't very, conducive to communicating and stuff like that. So I'm glad to see that some of those participation metrics are just being tracked and not necessarily incentivized for that particular purpose. As well, I like the idea of the video chat rooms, and I had the same kind of question on the tracks, whether they were going to be more interactive instead of being thrown out to the Q&A session, or having the user required to go to the Q&A session after the presentation. So this all sounds really, really good, and I hope people get in on this and get signed up and participate.
Well, I think the conundrum that everyone has when they go to a large show is that you've got a lot of presentations that are concurrent, and they all look great. So one of the advantages of what we're doing is that you can follow. So you could follow the satellite track all the way through, but you've got the month to go and look at the other presentations that you want. And after that month, those presentations will find themselves at some point on the, the QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo YouTube channel. So there's always a chance to see all of the presentations that you want. And one of the things that we wanted to convince our presenters to do was not try to give the entire formula, in a single sitting, but to create interest enough to push the button on the platform to download the content, or to take the next step, or to how do I learn more about this thing. So that's really, I think, what we want to do is kind of inspire the number of people that are coming. Many, again, who don't go to regular conventions, and we have a large number. I think 20% of our people that came last time were new hams. So it's an opportunity for even new hams and even returning hams or older hams to say, there's something different happening in this 3-ring circus of ham radio, and it's an opportunity for them to pursue it. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to inspire with the presentations.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait. I've been reluctantly thinking about this just because, as somebody who's online all day long, every day, the last thing I want to do is be online all weekend long, all day. But, it sounded like it's really coming together, and, I'm looking forward to a professional event. So this is really great.
We learned something it was very funny because I'm sitting here on Sunday, about noon Pacific time, watching the dashboard, and all of a sudden I'm seeing, people logging out. And I'm thinking, well, that's really strange. That looks a lot like a real, like Dayton, for example, when you go back to the fairground on Sunday morning, and all of a sudden you kind of, the energy is starting to drain right from the fairground because people are leaving. They're pulling their rollerboard bags, they're headed to the airport. Well, that's kind of what it looked like on the platform as it gets close to noon. I was seeing the numbers starting to wind down. So we've kind of planned the Expo this time to do the same thing. We're doing the Expo on Pacific time, so it actually starts on Friday evening Pacific time at 6 p.m. And the two auditoriums at least at this point, there probably be more, but we have the Ham Radio Workbench podcast, and we have the Ham 2.0 podcasters, or video guys. They'll actually be doing live shows from two of the auditoriums. So there's activities that are happening. And then Saturday morning at 8 o'clock Pacific time is when the presentations begin. And I think there's probably 6 simultaneous presentations starting at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Now, right now we're working on the webpage so that we can give you if you're not in the Pacific time zone, you'll have it in GMT. There's also an iCal, or will be an iCal button, so that you can, if there are things that you want to watch and make sure they're on your calendar, you can push the button and it will go to your Google Calendar, for example, and make it as an appointment. So we're trying to make it as user friendly as possible, even and especially if you're not in the Pacific time zone.
Well, I'm really close to that, so.
You're close to the Pacific time zone.
Yeah. So.
Well, I'm 10 hours ahead of the Pacific time zone, so the middle of the afternoon Pacific time will be my bedtime, but I'll be up.
You're gonna switch your life schedule around to meet this event.
It'll take me a week to recover.
Much like flying here and flying back.
That's right. I'll have jet lag from the virtual hamvention. Right.
Yeah.
So can you talk about like prizes and stuff? That's what lots of people are interested in.
Well, you know what? At this point, I sent out a message probably just yesterday asking the exhibitors to let us know what prizes they will have in their contest. So each exhibitor does their own contest. But I would imagine that the sponsors will have some pretty cool stuff, like they did last time. And I don't want to commit them because I don't know what that stuff is yet. But people should look at our QSO Today hamexpo.com website and look at the prize menu item when it goes up to see what prizes are going to be in the booths there.
So give us the website and everything where people can go and get tickets to be a part of this, and if there are like prize tickets, where to get those, and if there's any other place that people need to find information, should probably get that out there now too.
Sure, there's only one place. That's QSOTodayHamExpo.com. QSOTodayHamExpo.com. If you go there, that's our official website. It has the ticket link on it. It has the homepage. It has the speakers listed. The speaker times are right now I'm still juggling speaker times. It should be settled within the next week or two, but you'll see who the speakers are and what they're talking about, and that's the place. That's the official Ham Expo website. Now, one thing I might say is that when you buy a ticket, at least the shopping cart that I am using will say that that the transaction is in progress. What's in progress is that while you have your receipt, you don't have your ticket yet. And what will happen is just before the expo, you'll get your ticket by email, and that ticket will be that unique URL for each attendee. So that URL will identify that person on the platform.
All right, very good.
Okay.
And the dates again?
So it starts officially, the platform opens at 6 p.m. Pacific time, March 12th. That's Friday afternoon or Friday evening at 6 p.m. and it runs to 6 p.m. Sunday, March 14th. And we're encouraging all of the people that are either presenting or have exhibition booths at the expo to also use the time in between. So we're hoping that there'll be some programming that we're working on now in the evening hours, say Saturday night Pacific time, and maybe even Sunday afternoon.
All right, very good. So anything else we need to touch on? Did we get it all?
I think so.
All right, sounds good. Well,
we didn't talk about Linux though.
Well, no, but that's what the expo is for. There'll be lots of that.
Yes.
There needs to be more of it. So I'm a Kubuntu KDE Plasma Linux user. I'm sitting here looking at 3 screens of Kubuntu Linux. So that's at least you got the Linux part out of me.
You're not going to find a lot of sympathy here. With not a lot of KDE users around here, but
is that right? You guys are Manjaro users, or?
No. I GNOME on Debian mainly, and Bill is kind of
GNOME
migrating over to Fedora. So
yeah, Fedora.
Okay, so I'll follow it on your podcast to see how that goes for you.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thanks, Eric, for being here and telling us all about the upcoming Expo. I think I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope everybody else is as well. And maybe we'll catch up with you afterwards for a little bit of a wrap-up and see how it all went this time around. Oh, and I don't think you mentioned it just now, but everything will be available for ticket holders for 30 days after the event. They missed
That's
something.
Right. That's right. All of the presentations will be available. The exhibit booths, while there may not be anybody there, but the content on the exhibit booths will be there for 30 days.
All right. Sounds good. Well, Thanks again for being here, and looking forward to a successful event coming up on the 12th through the 14th of March.
Thank you very much. 73.
All right. Take care. Pick up your tickets now. You've got all the information. Be a part of it. We'll be there, and we'll see you. So moving on from there, we're going to jump into topics for amateur radio. Bill's going to lead us through the one amateur radio topic we have for the evening.
Yeah, this is a pretty good news, big one, I guess. This is from the ARRL board. It considers to plan to cover new $35 FCC fee for some young members. At its annual board meeting in January, the ARRL board of directors considered a motion to offer a new plan that would pay the new but not yet implemented $35 FCC application fee for a limited number of new amateur radios, amateurs younger than the age of 18, who at the time of testing belonged to an ARRL affiliated 501c3 charitable organization and passed their test through an ARRL VEC sponsored exam session. The proposal called for reducing the VEC fee for these candidates to $5. The initial proposal came from the ARRL Southeastern Division Director, Mickey Baker, N4MB. Other board members offered subsidiary motions. Supporters said the purpose behind the motion was to ameliorate the potential financial hardship the pending FCC application fee posed on certain minors applying for their first license, and to encourage new youth membership. Consideration of the motion, which was subject to considerable discussion, was deferred to an ad hoc committee composed of the members of the Administration and Finance Committee, 2 members of the Programs and Services Committee, and the ARRL CEO, David Minster, NA2AA, or his designated representative. The board directed the panel to review and more fully develop the proposal and report back to the board by the end of March with a recommendation as to whether the program should be adopted and, if adopted, how it should be implemented. And this, of course, came straight from the horse's mouth at the ARRL. So you should definitely write into your division directors with your growing support for this. So this becomes something that is possible, especially for those younger members to, of course, grow the hobby in the youth amateur radio world.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to give a little subsidy to the people just getting into the hobby, and that should make it more attractive by getting rid of that fee for some folks. All right, well, that was it for amateur radio, although that did go for a bit. So let's jump into some open source. The first thing we have here is Flameshot, and it's a screenshot software, and Bill only put a stub in here, so.
He put a stub in here, yeah.
Yeah.
We have talked about some screenshot programs before. I think we did KSnip the last time we talked about it, and this is just yet another simple to use screenshot software tool. Has customizable appearance. It's easy to use. In-app screenshot edition. Has a dbus interface and has an upload built into Imager. So, this is kind of a cool little project. It's GPL v3. It's got a nice little interface. You can do all kinds of annotations on top of the screenshots, which is always a powerful tool when you're trying to explain somebody maybe some steps or something like that. It has the ability to drop in arrows, has the ability to, draw on it, put text on it, everything else, much like, the capabilities of KSnip and stuff like that. So if you're looking for a more powerful screenshotting tool, Flameshot is definitely a cool one to take a look at. And I thought I'd include it here. I was just looking for random stuff over the week and threw that in here. And, I thought it'd be an interesting one since a lot of people tried out KSNP the last time. So give this one a try. It's Flameshot. You can find it on GitHub. And of course it's linked in the show notes.
All right. Very good. This is something I actually could have used today if I had known about it. And, cause I needed to annotate a screenshot, but it's okay. I made do with what I had. So moving on, we've got what's new with OwnCloud in 2021. Is it still OwnCloud? I thought it was like Nextcloud, or is that a fork, or what's the deal?
I think
with
it's
that?
a fork. Yeah.
So the newest version of OwnCloud Infinite Scale, or OCIS, is a complete rewrite of the venerable open source enterprise file sharing and sync software stack. It features a new backend written in Go, a front end in Vue.javascript. Yay. And many changes, including eliminating the need for a database. Well, it's got to have a database of some kind, maybe like a MongoDB or something. Maybe not a traditional, query language DB or something. But
yeah, I think it's a.
There's got to be a data store.
Yeah, I didn't look at it completely, but I think they're using object storage.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Something along those lines. All right, that's cool. This scalable, modular approach replaces OwnCloud's PHP database and POSIX system and promises up to 10 times better performance. Ooh. So cool. I use OwnCloud, and I'm sure if I try and upgrade my current version to this one, it'll break horribly, but I'll give it a shot.
Load on impact.
Yeah, luckily it's running in a VM, so I can roll back if it blows up. Always a good thing. All right, so Cheryl, you want to tackle one of these?
Sure. Isn't this?
Okay.
Well, this is the last
there's only one left
so.
in this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're going to force Bill to read the last one, of course.
Of course. So our next one is AMD users should immediately switch to the latest Linux 5.11 kernel. The latest release of the Linux kernel features some impressive performance enhancements, for AMD hardware. Released over the Valentine's Day weekend, Linux kernel 5.11 fixed a major performance regression that impacted the AMD Zen architecture. Thanks to the fix, Zen-based processors such as Ryzen and EPYC have been benchmarked as being faster out of the box than on previous kernels. Also debuting in the release is support for AMD Van Gogh and Dimgray Cavefish GPUs. The semiconductor company has recently put out a number of Linux-related job postings, and the improvements to AMD hardware in the latest release is further evidence that the chip giant is actively working to improve support for its hardware on Linux.
Well, that's good because Intel's running roughshod over AMD, and they have been for a while. So some nice improvements in performance for AMD will probably give them a little bit of a leg up.
Yeah, I've heard some very good things about it, especially even on the box that I have right now, the Zephyrus G14. And they say the performance improvement from a year ago is when it was first released is amazing now. So I'm kind of jonesing to put some Linux on my gaming laptop. So yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. And actually, now that I think about it, since I have this M1 Mac Mini here now, I should install Steam on it and see how it goes.
Yeah, probably it does pretty well.
It probably should run pretty good. Yeah. Or maybe the other one. What's the other one where you were getting all the free games recently?
Oh, EPYC. Yeah,
EPYC.
the EPYC. Yeah.
Maybe try that one too.
Then you can play Fortnite. Woohoo!
I have an Xbox for that.
Oh, that's right.
All right. So moving on, we come down to Linux in the Ham Shack, which is our keepsake and our namesake segment for the show. And we're going to talk a little bit about a project we have talked about a lot, which is DudeStar. Because Bill's now all into the digital radio universe now because he doesn't need a radio.
Hell yeah.
So tell us what's new in DudeStar.
Yeah, so just wanted to kind of spin off of what we talked about in the deep dive, DudeStar updates, and remind you that you need to keep your build updated. And he says it's very important, especially because they're making some very important fixes to the performance and everything else. And this is just some of the items that were worked on just in the past 2 weeks. There was a release today, tagged release today, at about lunchtime here. So, yeah, he's got a better solution for Mac OS, iOS QT audio input bug. We got check for IPv6 on M17. We got XRF to REF option to D-Star settings for use with D-Extra reflectors. I don't even know what that is, but it sounds cool. New settings in file format and add the IPv6 support. So that's all in there now. Add the new state for IAX. He fixed the lat long string for format and add notification for the DMR server closing. Added an OS-specific build string for about message again. Let's see what else. New version for QMake for Windows check. We got, a bunch of little IAX fixes for start voice TX after receive first voice frame from node. This is all complex names. These are like the commit tags, so they weren't very descriptive, but hopefully you can figure this out. Remove 3 millisecond add to timestamps and respond to VNAX. Separate registration and call to columns IDs and send ACK for opt. So, yeah, quite a few improvements and everything else. So, definitely if you're starting to play with it, just go ahead and grab the latest build, and just keep building. If you're running your own compiled version, best way to do that is basically just git clone his repository and just keep updating it every time he does an update and just recompile. And, you'll get those latest updates inside of your build. And he does publish the 32-bit and 64-bit Windows EXEs every time. So you can have those as if you're using a Windows box to use the DudeStar. So you just keep replacing that EXE and use the latest, greatest version. So we also linked to the latest tag inside of the show notes from the GitHub site. And I didn't put it in here, but I did want to bug you about what were you doing with WinLink today? Was that on Linux?
It was on Linux. I was using RDOP and PAT to connect to the WinLink network via HFRF, and was actually able to send some email using those two things. I tried it originally using Direwolf and AX25, and I was having some issues with that. So for the soft modem, I went over to RDOP, and that seemed to work a lot better. Had a little trouble getting the build working, or the downloaded version wasn't working right, so I had to build it. But after building it, it worked just fine. Used both the CLI version of PAT and the GUI version of PAT, and it works great, whether by Telnet or RF. So, yeah, that's been my first experience with WinLink. So it's pretty cool.
Well, great. As you play with it some more, maybe we'll have a deep dive out of that.
Yeah, I want to make sure I fully understand what's going on with the system, because, I mean, WinLink is kind of an old technology, but I don't really understand it because I'm really new to it, even though it's old. But... yeah, I mean, I'll talk about it some more once I understand it some more.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I thought we had to mention it because you were playing with it, so.
Well, yeah. It's worth talking about. And I want to jump back to the DudeStar thing because since the last time we talked about DudeStar and this time, I actually set up an M17 reflector. So if you're using DudeStar, you can go to the M17 mode and you can select M17-659, and that is my reflector. So, you know, you can talk using DudeStar and M17, which is an actual audio protocol. So, and we'll probably be talking about a project called OpenRTX in the coming days, and we will be having an interview with the M17 guys on the next deep dive. So, be ready for that.
Very excited.
Yeah, lots of new technologies, lots of cool stuff on the horizon, and we're here to tell you all about it. So there you go.
Lots of stuff.
What's that?
I just said lots of stuff.
Oh, yeah, lots of stuff. Lots of interesting stuff in the world of amateur radio and open source. All right, well, with that, we've come down to the end of the show. But we still have our social media roundup, so we got to let Cheryl come in here and tell us all about the folks who help support the program and who join us on our social media networks.
Yes, we do. We have several new people, looks like, today. For our Patreons, we have Eric Guth, which is a new person, Brandon Rozek, John Spriggs, Robert Lewis, Robert Pitts, Douglas Rutter, David Jakeway, Darren King, Cubicle Nate, Erno Costalas, Samuel Vimes, Peter Caffrey, Richard Gordon, Paul Griffith, Jonas Rulo, Donald Gover, Herb Garcia, Steve Sainer, Steve Metcalf, William Heckelman, Randolph Smith, and Amd Webster. For our subscriptions, we have Isaac Geyer, not sure on the pronunciation of that one, Thomas Foy, Michael Burdack, Kevin Ivey, Tony Coberly, Ronald Ike, Johnny Kinsey, Peter Spots, Fred Cole, Bill Piotr, Jeffrey Boris, Robert Halliday, Wayne Hill, John Clark, Steve Hepler, Michael Jopling, Roger Pereira, Howard Dittmer, Todd Bowers, Michael Carey, A. Taylor, Dylan Engel, Jim McKenzie, Bill Collins, Robert Black, Darren King, Randolph Smith, Robert Yerke, Steve Biella, Alan Wilson, Mark Farrell, and Jeff Zimmerman. On Facebook, we had Arend Schuurman join us, Dave Tipton, and Brian Brunelle. On Twitter, we added at N Dykstra, at Daniel W27543217, at VE3FCQ, at Linux SWL, at Gen2Fag, and at VA3HDL. Nobody joined us on YouTube. There is nobody on the mailing list and no merchandise sales.
Yes, as it happens, the mailing list is kaput right now. I'm working on recovering it, so there won't be anybody joining the mailing list for at least a little bit. But I'm working on it, so because I forgot about it when I deleted the machine it was running on.
So, yeah, well,
That happens occasionally.
it does happen occasionally, unfortunately. But with that, we have come down to the end of the program, so we should probably go ahead and wrap this one up. And before we do that, we'll mention the folks who are with us live in the chat room. And I had Don, KC9ZMY, Don, KB2YSI, and Tony, K4XSS. I don't know if anybody else popped in there while I wasn't looking, but those are the ones that I saw for sure. So with that, I guess we're gonna call this one a wrap, and we're gonna get on out of here. So thanks for listening, and look forward to the deep dive on M17 coming up next. So take care and have a good week. We'll talk to you next time around. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD 73.